Hello and welcome back to the Three Hamster Boys podcast. We are here again for another episode. Team, I'm running out of track of how many episodes this is. I think this might be seven.
Seven.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're almost there to double digits. Last episode, if you watched it, was a bit of a downer. We were talking about like death in media, and of course, a lot of that kind of comes back to artists' expression of death and mortality in our own life, and that got a little sad. So this episode we want to do something a little bit different, a little fun, a little more light, and just kind of have a little fun with it and not kind of be quite as down in the dumps. I think it was a great episode, but it gets a little depressing.
So we picked one that I'm not going to be very good at because I have no imagination.
This is more of an exercise than like a personal feel, but I think it's just entertaining.
Yeah. So before we get too deep into the topics we're going to be talking about, Nick, do you want to talk about what we're drinking?
Absolutely. So we have Ragged Branch. It's a rye.
A rye whiskey. So Ragged Branch, once again, is a very local distillery to us.
Yeah.
They're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they're hard to get to, but
surrounded by like vineyards and farmland, basically.
And I've seen them, available nationally right now. So
cool.
They're getting bigger and bigger. We actually have a friend that was one of the initial investors in it.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's kind of cool to see them getting popular. They started with just I think it was a single malt bourbon or single. They started with a bourbon and then they've gone to a single malt and some other things. So the rye, I'm really curious about the rye because we have not tasted this yet.
Yeah, we tried others while we visited, but the rye was untouched for today.
And rye is very different. I don't think either one of you has ever tasted a rye that you can remember.
Probably not.
Maybe.
You can remember it. Interesting phrasing. I might have had it with other things.
Right. You might have. Rye is definitely a different taste than other whiskeys.
Would you compare it to more of like a spiced rum to rum, or
no? we were talking about this before, and a lot of people describe rye as spicy, but not spicy as in like spiced rum. Spicy as in it has a lot more tingly notes on your tongue when you drink it compared to other whiskeys.
I was about to say, is this gonna kick me or is
no, it's not gonna kick you, but you're gonna be like, okay, that's not bourbon at all. So you're definitely, as someone that drinks a lot of whiskey and scotch, I can definitely taste the difference when I taste a rye. So
as us newbies, we might not be able to taste as much. Cheers. This is just a shot.
Just on the rocks.
Yeah.
So like when you smell it, it's very different.
That's fun. I like that.
It's got like something after.
Yep. It's got more of a tingly on the back of your tongue when you drink it.
Yeah, it definitely just kind of lingers after a while, and I kind of like that. This is definitely something that you'd want to like sip.
Yep.
This is like like you go to a noir style bar and you just, bartender, give me a rye, and he just slides
rye on the rocks.
Yeah, rye on the rocks.
Rye on the rocks.
Sipping this.
So, it's
good.
It is good. I do like it. It's very similar to why I drink scotch, because it has a more full bodied and it more of a sipping one that kind of, it doesn't warm me as much as scotch does, but it is good.
All right, so now for the topic here. We're being a little silly, and as Nick kind of said, this is more of a thought experiment. If you think about it, or actually as a little backstory, this is kind of one of the icebreakers that Nick or I will use during camp when we're like introducing groups of people to each other, as like, hey, we're gonna do this, and also introduce your name and things like that. So to kick things off, the prompt here is, if you could live in any sort of, and we'll start with fruit and we'll evolve it as we go, but if you could live in any sort of fruit, what would it be? So kind of as an example, if you think about SpongeBob SquarePants, he lives in a pineapple under the sea. But what would you live in? And that's the question that we're proposing to ourselves and to each other and even to you, audience. So Dad, I know you've said imagination not my thing, but let's kick it off with you.
We'd love to see you kick it off.
Okay, so when I was thinking about this, I'm thinking structural because I'm living in it.
Yeah.
And so I came up with pomegranate to live in.
Okay.
I get it.
And mainly because it reminds me of the adobe villages that live in the side of mountains.
Oh, okay.
When you said Adobe,
Yeah, I was thinking like.
So like you see these Native American Indian villages that are built into the rocks.
yeah,
And so when you open up a pomegranate, you have these different layers of skin inside of it, and the seeds are in different sections of it.
yeah,
So I was thinking that each one of those sections could be a living compartment inside the pomegranate. And then you had the seeds, so you could plant more pomegranate so you get more food, so you can have life-sustaining food.
Okay.
And then the pomegranates are supposed to have high antioxidants, so it's supposed to be really good for you. So, like I said, it wasn't an imaginary pick.
Yeah,
It was
you're thinking about like the colony.
It's like very practical. Like, all like use every part of the buffalo.
Yeah.
like,
exactly.
like, it's sort of like be the most efficient option.
Because you got the seeds to plant and keep going with food and all that stuff. So, like I said, when I looked at this, I'm like, oh God, this is so boring. It's so engineering,
But I think that's what makes it interesting, because again, like a part of this is it's telling us a little bit about your psyche and like what you're thinking about, right? And so engaging in this might seem silly, but in a way it's like, okay, we know that you kind of don't think of your imagination as that like out there, but you do think about like very logistical heavy things. You're thinking about the engineering side of it. You're thinking about how do I make this settlement prosper if we're forced to live in a pomegranate.
That is it.
yeah. I mean, I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
He's playing Fallout Shelter.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's like Fallout Shelter. Yeah, I'll go next. I think this is very kind of topical when we are recording this. We are within the midst of fall, and I just think it would be very fun. Mine is less kind of engineering and like very like logical focus. Mine's just because I think it would be fun. I'm thinking about a pumpkin. I'm thinking about living in a pumpkin,
Looking out of the eyes of the jack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Specifically a jack-o'-lantern.
Exactly. Specifically like a cutout jack-o'-lantern. Nick and I had this conversation before. I think it would be windows. It wouldn't just be like straight up open for you to like walk in and out of the mouth of the pumpkin. But I think with that, you've got a spacious interior. I'm not thinking about a colony. I'm thinking about a single person home, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a yurt.
Yeah, a yurt, exactly. If you wanted to, you could add another floor. I feel like you have the space for that.
You could cut it in half.
Yeah, make it a loft.
Well, you could also do like a snowman pumpkin, have 3 different sized pumpkins and stack them up.
I didn't even think about that, but you could have like a, it's expandable. You can make it a duplex. But again, I think it matches like the fall vibes, have some like Halloween inspired interior, some witchy vibes, maybe just throw a cauldron in the middle because why not?
We talked about this. In order to get that like jack-o'-lantern glow.
Yeah, you have to choose like warm lighting for the inside.
I think we said like a hearth in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the chimney going up to be the spout.
Yeah, because you get the stem out.
The stem.
A big kind of hearth in the middle. And now that makes me think like a hearth, like what am I going to do as a single person? I want like people to come over and enjoy a hearth with me. I can't have that on like daily by myself.
Yes.
So what, the pumpkin's a party pad?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe,
Well,
maybe
it's an open
pad.
space because you can get a lot more people in.
True.
Or like Apex Legends, the way that they have some of those buildings is like a cylinder and then it's like a branch off into another cylinder. Maybe it's like something like that where we're in a pumpkin patch and it's just connecting.
Which is a giant commune.
Yeah, big commune.
Well, it's like one of it reminds me of like space colonies where they're you're like, oh, we build the house and we like connect it.
Right, exactly. That's kind of where my thoughts are.
I get it.
Originally it was just a single thing, but now I'm thinking like we could just add more and more.
Giant back into the
colony
mode.
Well, I just like the idea of community and like having like a walkable area. We were just out visiting a place nearby for an arts and crafts festival, and we're like, oh, we need to go to a restaurant, and we went to this Mexican restaurant, and it was in the middle of a like a development in the middle of
mixed usage development. So they had apartments, townhouses, and houses.
Yeah.
And then really 3 levels of houses where you have like a 1-bedroom,
Yeah.
a 3-bedroom, and then like a bigger one.
Yeah,
So-
like
And-
6 bedrooms.
Yeah, and it goes back to like I dream of like being able to walk to like anything that I need. So like there was like a couple restaurants in that little area. There was like a physical therapy place. There's a gym over there too. Just like having that accessible in that like community area.
Just like, unlike where we live now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do not live anywhere near like we have to drive like 15-20 minutes to get to anything.
We can't walk anywhere.
No.
Our only hope was a chance of a gas station being built near us, and the neighborhood said no. And I was.
It's not even really neighborhoods. It's just like a rural area, and all these,
Yeah.
all the people that lived in the area said, no, we want it to be rural. So,
That was my hope.
yeah. Anyways.
All right, Nick.
Okay, I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I
Oh.
think it's just my favorite and my
Oh,
go-to.
yeah.
So I have a common answer whenever I do this. I choose grapes. Grapes, I feel like they're versatile, and it's specifically on a grapevine.
Yeah.
Where they're all together, they're bunched. And my addition to it to make it like livable and more personalized for the design standpoint is that all the grapes are attached by rope bridges, where they're like all like sort of daisy chained together on the grapevine, and so like each of them have like their own rooms, and I mean depending on the size of the grape, to be honest.
I was like, are you building a colony too here?
It was not intended. It was like, oh, they're close by, so. It's more like if you can imagine like a train where you have like you open the door and there's like a small little like walk through.
Yeah.
Because like rope.
It's like the Ewoks.
Yeah.
That's probably more. Which is what
Basically,
a colony.
colony of it's a colony of treehouse linked by.
I mean, the treehouse is cool. I'm gonna be honest, and I think that is the sort of that is a pretty comparable vibe that I'm trying to capture.
I was just thinking, like, it's just like that, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like that.
it's exactly like that.
Yeah.
I've read some other sci-fi books where there have been huge plants that were like droplet-sized fruit that people lived in,
Yeah.
and they're connected by bridges too.
Yeah, it's not to say that this prompt isn't uninspired, right? Like
Right.
you mentioned SpongeBob and the
Yeah.
pineapple.
Yeah.
I think the go-to was
James and the Giant Peach.
I feel like that's the one I can connect a little bit more
Yeah.
to be honest.
I just like I couldn't think about it for a second. But yeah,
Yeah.
James and the Giant Peach. Yeah. I think this prompt is really fun, especially when you introduce it with kids and they're like, "Oh, heck, of course I've thought about this."
Yeah, they are unfazed by
yeah,
this.
they get so into it. And I think that's kind of the fun part about working with kids, is because they're just like unfiltered, unfazed by this. Where you're like, "All right, little Johnny, if you could be any kind of ball, what kind of ball would you be?" And he's like, "Meatball." And you're like, "Great answer."
You're like, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're right. That's a good answer.
I'd be a wrecking ball.
There you go. It's the fun little exercise.
Exactly. I always say I'd be a snowball.
All right.
But yeah, very fun. Let's move on to another drink. This is good. I
like this.
I'm excited to see how you'll incorporate this with other items.
It's gonna be a boozy night.
Yeah.
Isn't it always a boozy night?
Yeah, I feel like we have these like sections where it's like, oh, we're gonna have beer or cider, and it's like, this is light, this is easy. And then we've got like gin and rum, and it gets very boozy very quickly.
I try and find the interesting cocktails, and I don't just choose alcohol and soda. I'm like, oh wow, I've never heard of this before. Anyway,
All right.
We'll
So
be back.
let's take a break.
We'll see you right back. And we're back. Thanks for joining us again.
I just want to say one thing. So we kind of joke about this when we go to buy these mixers for it. One of the things that Nick's been doing is picking alcohols he's never heard of or never tried.
yeah,
So in Virginia, alcohol is controlled by the ABC store. And so now I'm getting to know these ABC employees pretty well.
Like, oh no, he's coming back in here.
Because I'll go in there and go, I need this. Do you know what this is? I've never seen that bottle before. So it's been quite the adventure just getting some stuff. And we haven't been able to find everything.
Yeah.
And we've had to replace some things. But I don't think there's been a bad replacement. I think we've been really lucky in that the drink has come out still good even with the replacements.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of these, especially tonight. We've done a lot of substitutions from the recipes that I found, but most of them they've at least been like it's recommended as a substitute, and although it's not like true to the recipe, yeah, I agree. I don't think any of them I'm like ick,
Right.
like I'm grossed out by.
Yeah, like is this the one with the sambuca? Or is that the next one? This one has the licorice in it.
Yeah. This
So like,
Wait, this is supposed to have sambuca in it?
this is some.
sambuca.
Oh yes. Let's go.
But yeah, so like this recipe called for anisette, and we
Yeah.
could not find anisette anywhere.
Which it's not actually the most uncommon thing.
No, it's not. And it just we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have sambuca in here right now for the licorice thing.
Yeah.
All right, heck yeah.
And at the same time, this is also the one it recommend. Okay, so let me give you. This is the Valstead, which is anisette and or sambuca, orange juice, raspberry juice. It recommends a Swedish punch.
What's a Swedish punch?
It's spelled oddly. It's
What?
like PUNSCH.
Oh, is it an alcohol?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There was no chance we were getting that.
Yeah.
There
Here.
wasn't
So instead we have the
Karacha.
Kachaka.
Kachaka.
Yeah.
Kachaka.
I think it's
What are you saying?
Kachaka.
Kachaka, which is a Brazilian rum.
It's a sweet rum.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was smelling earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called 51 or something like
Yeah.
that.
And then obviously the rye whiskey. The color is very pretty.
Yes.
And we couldn't get straight raspberry juice, so we basically muddled some raspberries in it. So
I don't
there's
know if
no-
we.
They gave him a bag.
so this has got real fruit in it besides the orange juice in it. So it should be really tasty.
This
Very real fruit.
is the least alcoholic drink of the night.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And there's still a decent amount, but it's just saved by the raspberry and orange juice.
It sounds like a really sweet drink, so I'm very excited.
What's it
for
called
this.
again?
It is the Valstead.
Valstead. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You know, even with the other flavors, I feel like it doesn't really cut down on that end note of the rye.
The rye still
Yeah.
comes
You can
out at
still
the
get
end.
the rye.
It just like comes out there. I like it. I think it adds like a little bit more complexity where you have more of that sweet notes coming forward in the beginning and kind of at the front of your tongue, and then you get the rye at the end with more of those notes near the back.
I think that having the muddled raspberries did not add enough raspberry taste to it.
I think so too.
I think that if we had the raspberry juice per se, it would be a little bit better.
Maybe it's because I'm not a fan of fruit, but I taste plenty raspberry.
So both of us really like fruit. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, both of them.
yeah.
It's also, I think the muddled raspberry has changed the expected consistency of this as well.
It definitely has. But you know what? I didn't catch the rum at all.
I get like a lighter like on the tail end. There's
Yeah.
like a hint of it. I think it's
Yeah.
because we did like very little.
Was that the dashes?
I was thinking about the rum.
Yeah, even then, compared to everything else,
Yeah,
it wasn't as much.
And the
Yeah.
licorice is not coming through at all.
No.
I think we could have put more licorice into it.
Yeah, I think it's still a good drink in general.
Yeah.
I definitely taste more of that fruity beginning and then the rye at the end for
I don't
sure.
think it's enough fruit.
Yeah. All right, Nick. Moving on, we did fruit to kick us off. I think it's only fair that we also hit up vegetables. So if we could live in any kind of vegetable, what would we do? Again, this is just kind of a fun episode. We wanted something a little lighter. So Nick, what vegetable, if you could live in a vegetable, what vegetable would you live in?
I'm deviating slightly in regards that I want to make my house out of it.
Okay.
So I'm using it.
Okay. You want to use it as building materials, not necessarily like James and the Giant Peach style, where he's just like living in a.
But you could still say you're living in it.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
I
So
like this. Yeah.
I'm choosing celery
Okay.
and Lincoln logs.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
You know, I think it has the perfect shape to be able to manipulate it. It's basically a log already.
Yeah. That's really fun.
This is just the clear choice. It's really dense, so I think insulation isn't a problem.
You insulate it with ranch, right?
Oh no.
No.
I feel like that starts smelling bad immediately.
If anything, peanut butter.
Peanut butter, yes.
I just imagine like builders coming in and like setting up like celery blocks and like as like mortar, like dipping into a jar of peanut
They're
butter.
cheeking it with the peanut butter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not ants on a log. But if we needed a mortar substitute, peanut butter makes sense. But yeah, celery, I think it's just a very sturdy thing. I think living in a celery could also be interesting. You'd live in like a large tube. You know, like you like stack them together.
True.
And it's like a shipping container.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Like on its side.
Yeah, I was thinking like straight up, and I was like, how would that work? But yeah, on the side, yeah.
Standing up, you'd be like my wizard tower of celery.
My prison.
I think I love going back to the idea of like a shipping container. I love the idea of like having a house that's like made out of a shipping container.
Yeah.
Not only because it's supposed to be like cheaper, but also you're like reusing these containers, and I think a lot of the housing designs can be really interesting. When I was in Amsterdam, they had near one of the universities, I think it was Amsterdam University, they had an area set up with a bunch of shipping container houses, not houses, like buildings that were kind of stacked on top of each other, with a common area in the middle. And this was set up to be like a place where students from the university could come and try and set up like businesses. So either students or people in the community could set up businesses and like run it out of this area.
I mean, we've seen a couple of them. We were in Camden in England.
Yeah.
And they had a food court, and it was 3 levels. I think it was 3 levels.
3 levels, yeah.
3 levels of cargo things
And
that were just...
I think that's so cool. I think it's such a great idea, especially in like city spaces where like space is important.
I don't know. I read something where it was like something like 60 million empty containers are just sitting around in these places.
Because like one part gets damaged and the whole thing is like
it's not sturdy enough to be stacked in these ships now that have to have 20 stacked high.
yeah.
You know.
And I just like it aesthetically.
Yeah.
It's against the brutalism in cities as well.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because like cargo containers, shipping containers, they're already like a blue or a red or something like that. So you already have that base, and then people obviously build on top of the colors. And I think it adds so much more personality and character to the space that it is put in.
And we talk about the high density ability of certain buildings. You start putting shipping containers, you can do high density and have multi-use around it. You could have restaurants right next to apartments, right next to stores and whatever. You'd also create local areas of business where local people could have their own business. I love the idea. I've always been, from an engineering perspective, these are very structurally sound containers that are meant to be stacked. So let's use them.
And I also really like that you can tandem them together.
Yeah.
Like if like one shipping container isn't enough, then you can put one next to it and like cut out holes and like stick them together.
Well, one of the things,
very modular.
Yeah. One of the things that I looked at is setting, if we were to get our own space for the bakery, right?
Yeah.
Is if I wanted to do a building, I was definitely going to look at a shipping container building. There's so many cool designs where you don't have to have them straight on. You can have them angled. You can have them at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
You can do all this stuff, and then it creates...
I've seen like the horseshoe. I think is really cool.
It creates spaces due to the voids, which is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. I think I've seen like one on either side and then one running across them
Yeah,
over
yeah,
top.
yeah.
And again, yeah, it adds kind of like courtyard area.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, really cool. I love that idea. Brutalism sucks. I don't know why we ever thought that was a good idea.
Man, shipping containers are my favorite vegetable.
But I'm just thinking about like replace a shipping container with celery at this point.
It's perfect.
And it's perfect.
Just makes sense.
Dad, what do you got going up second here?
So once again, to structurally, I was thinking, is bamboo a vegetable?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
I was like, I'm gonna say no.
I feel like people do eat bamboo. You
They
can
do
have
eat.
bamboo
You
shoots.
do bamboo shoots in like
Oh,
Asian
Yeah,
foods.
humans. I meant humans.
I mean, yeah, okay.
But I was like, I'm not gonna use that one because it was. I was only looking at it from a structural standpoint.
Okay.
So then, the reason I thought of the eye drop thing was I said I'm gonna be string beans because you have this line where the beans are hanging down.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a string of lights, but they would be ladders and pulleys in order to get from one bean to the other bean to the other bean. So once
Oh.
again, it's like a string beans are like a string of lights, but each light would be a place to stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So-
love that.
And then you can either do like cable car back and forth or
Yeah.
something like that. So I was thinking. The engineering side said bamboo was the good choice, but that's kind of a stretch in my mind as a vegetable.
A little bit.
I was
yeah.
thinking also sugarcane.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, you'd be close to the bamboo idea.
Yeah.
But sugarcane, once again, it's not really a vegetable.
Yeah.
It's more of a
It's
a plant.
I'm a bit embarrassed to admit I have no idea what real sugar cane looks like. I only know what it looks like from Minecraft.
It looks similar to bamboo. It's like a shoot.
Okay, it literally does look like from
Yeah, yeah,
Minecraft.
yeah.
It's lore accurate.
Yeah. So that's what because I was thinking I could build with it like you did with celery. I don't know why I didn't think of celery, but that's such a good idea.
I was a little. We didn't talk about
I was
our
like, yeah, you
choices
guys
at
are-
all.
Yeah.
I was like, he could pick celery.
I was kind of thinking about this. We normally at least like briefly mention a concept or an idea of what we're gonna do before
Yeah.
this. We did not talk to each other before this at all.
No.
I had a couple backups just in case I needed to pivot really quickly, but so far y'all had very similar ideas. Nothing like mine.
But so string bean is my choice.
I love it.
Unexpected. I like it a
Yeah,
lot.
no, I really think that's fun. For me, I went with a very different idea. And this goes back to Ewoks. This goes back to the childhood dream of always wanting to live in a treehouse.
Doing broccoli.
I wanted broccoli. Yup.
It is so ironic. I hope you know, because you were the one being like, "I'm allergic to broccoli." When you were younger, you were like so against it.
I was adamantly against broccoli when I was younger. I'm a changed man now, though. I love broccoli now. I broccoli, cauliflower, give me veggies. I'll eat them. I don't like fruit as much, and I've been forcing myself for years to eat fruit in hopes that like I won't hate it.
Well, I mean, we joke about it, but you like Brussels sprouts before Mom and I did. Because Brussels sprouts are really a tough eat for me.
I'm not there yet. I'm gonna be honest.
I won't say I love Brussels sprouts, and like when we were cooking them for Oma, like not great.
No. But I'm thinking like pan fried with some
Yeah,
bacon.
I think that's the only way to eat
yeah,
them. To be
it was
honest,
super
you
good.
want you want them crispy, not gooey.
Yeah, how do you enjoy that pan fried with bacon?
I don't. You know what? The way I usually eat Brussels sprouts now is in a salad,
Oh,
shredded
yeah.
up raw in a salad because it adds crunch to it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
be
Yeah,
honest. I
exactly.
think eating the whole Brussels sprouts isn't ideal. I like the different parts. It's
Yeah.
like
It's like an artichoke.
I was just about to say artichoke.
it's like an
yeah.
artichoke. They're mini cabbages. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna just chunk
Right.
into a whole cabbage. You know, you're gonna
No, but that's how I look at Brussels sprouts. Is when I like adding shredded red cabbage or regular cabbage
Yeah.
to whatever. You put that on a taco, or you put that on a ramen or whatever. It's really good.
Yeah. But yeah, so broccoli, again, it's like a tree house, basically,
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking of. If you wanted to, you could probably put like different little houses in like each of the little florets that are kind of on the broccoli. But I was mainly thinking of just like one big piece of broccoli that has like an inside and then like outdoor patio area where you can walk around the side of it. enjoy my treehouse life.
I like that. I was considering broccoli for a second. I'm like, but it's a little dense and like
Yeah.
when I think of it.
Yeah. It's funny. My backup was carrot. I was either going up or going down.
Oh, underground. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. You would actually be fallout shelter.
Yeah, it would actually be a shelter.
Hollow it out,
Yeah.
you know. Okay.
But I feel like with carrot, right? Because this is what I was thinking. With carrot, I would have to have some way to get to the surface quickly and easily, because I do not want to be like underground the entire time. I feel like I would go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought you were gonna pick mushroom though.
Dude, mushroom. Look, sometimes I don't know if mushroom counts as a vegetable.
Culinarily?
Yeah, like
It's a fungus.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know. And I love mushrooms, but I think if I had something that I really, really liked eating, like mushrooms, I'd just be like, oh man, I'm cooking up
You'd be
something for dinner.
tempted.
Yeah, I'd be like, let me just cut a little bit. And after a while, like guests come over and they're like, why is there a hole in your wall?
I'm installing a new window.
Wait, hold
Don't
on,
worry
hold on.
about it.
It always grows. So
Yeah.
it would be growing as you do it. So you'd have to cut it off and cook it.
Also, if it's mushrooms, it's got to be on something like decomposing, right?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be.
Well, just like
No, it could be on like a tree.
yeah, like a dying tree.
No, you see mushrooms on live trees all the time.
it just
I guess so.
You know.
Yeah.
a little bit.
Just gotta keep it moist.
Basically, dark and moist.
You gotta water my house.
Yeah, exactly.
I think all of us would have to have that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be like the good thing is like, if it rains, you're like your house gets water.
All of our houses need to be in England or Oregon.
yeah. Oh my gosh, a house in Wales doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah. It'd be wet.
All right, cool. I think we're moving on to drink number 3.
And we've almost finished these all.
Almost.
Well,
Yeah.
so one of us has. I'm taking my time. I don't want to get as.
You're enjoying my creation. I
Yeah,
get it.
exactly.
Yeah, I am.
All right, we'll see you back in a second here.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, welcome back to part 3. I honestly don't know how we're gonna be breaking these up, or how like the cuts are gonna look. But welcome back. Thanks for joining us here. We are on our 3rd and final drink of the night. I've been told this is the booziest drink of them all.
Yeah. There's not a lot of
Non-alcohol.
yeah. So
man.
this is called the Lafayette.
Okay.
And
We're about to go design DC. You didn't get that joke.
No, I don't understand what you're
Sorry.
saying to me.
I'm sorry. Okay, it's fine.
Lafayette is the one that did the architectural design of DC, Washington,
Gotcha.
D.C.
Oh, I thought it had something to do with like a French war, like soldier or something.
Yeah, probably did.
Well,
Yeah.
in any case, this is obviously we have the rye, and then it has a. It recommended a dry vermouth, but we didn't have a dry vermouth, so I put in a vermouth rouge in it.
Sweet
And then it recommended a Dubonnet
Dubonnet Rouge.
a Dubonnet rouge, which
We're just saying words now.
we didn't find, so we're using a tawny port.
Oh wow, there's a lot of substitutions.
A lot of
Not a
substitutions.
substitution. So the Dubonnet Rouge is a little bit sweeter because when we went to go get it, they said we're supposed to have one in inventory,
Yeah,
and they looked and they
Oh.
said no.
we hunted for it.
We
and
hunted
we
for
could
it,
not find
and they
it.
said, well, something close to it would be a fortified wine, which is a port.
Okay.
So the tawny port is not as sweet as a regular port. So this is going to be not as sweet as a Dubonnet Rouge. And here's the other thing about it is when we once again getting to know these people that sell alcohol, they's like, oh yeah, we also have a Dubonnet Blanc that we don't have in stock either. So there's a dry kind of white wine version of this because basically it's a fortified wine that's almost like a liqueur.
Which has like spices on top
Yeah.
of it.
Whoa, that miuld
I was
be
looking.
interesting to
I was
use,
looking
yeah.
forward to it, to be honest.
But once again, we live in a fairly rural area and a fairly small
Yeah.
town around, so the options are not as good as if we
They're like,
lived in a big city.
Why would these people be wanting this?
So there's the port, the vermouth, dash of bitters,
Okay.
and then 2 shots for each of us of the rye.
Yes. Nice.
This is the booziest thing of the night.
That's great. All right, let's get this started then. Cheers.
Cheers. Has a great smell.
Whoa.
That's a good taste. I was expecting this to be a little heavier. Like I thought I would be like, you know. But honestly, I could drink this.
I could think if the port was sweeter, it would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly like an enhancer of the rye.
Yeah, it
I
is.
feel like the rye is so apparent, but there's like other notes on top of it.
Oh no, he's a man down.
It got him. It got him.
He's going down. He forgot how to drink and breathe at the
Yeah,
same
I
time.
was breathing the thing.
He was trying to smell it really well.
Yeah. But no, I was.
It's very aromatic with the bitters, with the vermouth, with the port.
You can definitely taste the bitters and the port on the top of your mouth.
Yeah.
We talk about dangerous alcohol as something that we can drink really easily without like tasting the alcohol taste this. I think this is dangerous in the fact that I could really drink this fairly easily, and I know that there's alcohol in this. It tastes like alcohol, but I still feel like you said, it just enhances the flavor. Like it makes that alcohol flavor really good.
Yeah.
And like I said, the rye is such a different flavor compared to the
Yeah.
bourbon, you know. And I think the other thing is you're drinking alcohol because this is the one that's the warming one. The
Yeah.
rye warms you a
Oh,
little bit.
you
This
can-
one definitely warms
You can
me.
feel it going
Yeah.
through.
And I love that feeling. I think that's a really fun feeling. I feel like I felt it more with like scotches where it just like I feel it head to toe.
Yeah.
And that's why I like sipping it. They last longer. You have
Yeah.
this feeling of warmth, and I just like it.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, this is fun. I really like this one. All right, Nick, I'm gonna have you kick us off here for this.
Whoa, wait, you're usually the one rounding it off. What's happening?
He's gonna go last because he's got something special for us.
Okay, all right.
I wanted to hear from you.
You're running the show. Are you afraid that I might have chosen the same one?
No,
as you?
I'm not afraid at all. But I'm really curious to figure out what.
Okay, so you gotta
yours
tell
is.
him what the thing.
Yeah, so the prompt here is we've done fruits, we've done vegetables. We wanted something a little different to round out the night. Obviously, because when this prompt is normally used, it's just as a icebreaker, and normally
5-second answer.
Yeah, we can normally just do this really quickly. And from like session to session, it doesn't really change. We just have the same thing. But we wanted something a little grandiose, and I was mulling it over. I was thinking about it, and I was messaging Nick about it, and Nick was like, "This is it." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's it. You're absolutely correct." So instead of having us live in some sort of oversized fruit or vegetable, it is if we could live in a fantasy world of our choosing, a fictional world of our choosing. Sorry, I said fantasy, but I meant fictional. So like sci-fi. And this kind of ties back to our normal theme of talking about media, talking about movies, TV shows, media, things, anime, things of that nature. So what fictional world would we live in? I'm really excited to hear both of your answers, especially because I don't know what you would even think about.
I also gave it to you, and you went, okay, got it.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He took like maybe 4 seconds to figure it out. I was very shocked.
All right. Nick, kick us off. I'll go second, and Dad, I'll have you finish us off.
Yeah, I'm curious what it is. Okay, well, to no one's surprise, I chose an anime.
Whoa.
Because I gotta live up to that sort of reputation that I'm establishing. But it's an unconventional one.
Okay.
I think, because no one says this answer. I haven't seen anyone talk about it. Which is, I would live in the world of an anime called Toriko. Toriko is an anime all about cuisine and food.
Oh.
Its entirety, the premise of it basically is everything in this world is edible. And the stronger that it is, the tastier it is.
The stronger the...
If it's an animal,
Yeah, like
and if it's like a real like if a dragon showed up, that would be one of the tastiest things
like,
you
dude,
could show
so
up.
Good.
If it's like oh, this fruit only produces fruit every 1,000 years. It's like it's like so good. And this is one of the few worlds we talked about this like just now. Quality of life in a lot of media worlds not good for the average person.
Yeah, I was joking that one of the things that was an afterthought was I'd love to live in Fifth Element world, but that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Because it's dystopian and it's just
Not great.
not great.
But Toriko,
You have 2 points left on your driving license.
the average person, eats some of the best food that we would compare to in our world. And only the super strong people would eat like
The dragon.
And you can't even describe it.
It gives you a reason to fight for.
Exactly. It's quality of life. It's like futuristic. Everyone is living good. And like you could find random shops that are serving like the most delectable things you could find. And so going off of what I love, it's food and whatnot. It's like the perfect world, to be honest, because it's like everything is so like enhancing and the cuisine is like the focus point of it. And the whole like premise of the show is like every person has a like final meal, like their life's meal.
Wait, what?
And when they find a dish, I think there's like 12 choices. So you choose your beverage, your dessert, your main dish, your salad. Like there's like every single dish, and when you eat something, you can choose to assign it somewhere on your life's meal.
Whoa, okay.
And that's the whole premise of the show, where it's like you have these main characters that are traveling the world,
Trying to fill their menu.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm actually really want to see that anime now.
It's an old one. It's a classic,
Yeah,
though. It's a classic.
I know it's an old one. I haven't seen it. I've just heard about it. So.
But yeah, quality of life super good. Futuristic. It's good.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds awesome. Sounds delicious.
Yeah. What am I doing? Well, I'm trying to figure out my final meal.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I would die fighting a dragon if it meant maybe I could defeat it so I could eat some dragon.
That's what I'm saying. and they make the food. They describe the food. It's good.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
good.
yeah.
It's good.
That's awesome. I love like food-based anime. It always makes me hungry. Like Delicious in Dungeon. We were talking about it last episode. Heck yeah, I'd eat some sort of monster. Like they're like, you would eat that monster? I'm like, yes, I would.
The mushroom guy on site.
yeah, true. My choice.
I'm curious.
Is I think a bit basic if you've talked to me for a little bit. And not great, to be honest, but I think it's so interesting that I'd want to like be there to see. So one of the main reasons that I got into anime was this show called Darker Than Black. And in this world, and the reason why I got into the show is not necessarily because of the characters. If I'm going to be honest, the main character is a bit bland, and I think intentionally so. But the world, I think, is really interesting. And in this world, there are people called contractors, which are essentially people with superpowers. It could be literally anything. Could be the ability to swap bodies with people. Could be the ability to control gravity. Could be the ability to reverse time or manipulate time, to set people on fire just by thinking about it, to electrocute people. There's like a variety of powers and abilities.
That sounds like a wonderful place to live.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. It's like modern Japan with like a little futuristic.
Yeah.
It's only like a little bit further ahead. But the reason why these people with superpowers are called contractors is because every time they use their ability, they need to pay a price of some kind. A contract, if you will, that needs to be fulfilled. And oftentimes, as the show kind of discovers and kind of looks over, oftentimes this price that needs to be paid is something that because these people are like were normal people and then became contractors was something that these people hated in their normal life before they became contractors. So oftentimes this price is like awful for them specifically, and I think that's really interesting.
So you pay a price, you pay a terrible price
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
ability
But
to have a superpower.
It's like a terrible price.
Yeah,
So it's
it-
like I have the ability to fly or something,
Yeah.
but I have to smoke like a carton of cigarettes.
Yeah. So one of the characters, November 11, he is a British operative. He has the ability to freeze like water essentially. Like he can freeze things and freeze people, basically killing them instantly, right? He kind of a main kind of staple of his character is he hates smoking so much. He will literally like sit with a bad guy and be like, "Did you know that secondhand smoke is statistically worse for you than actually smoking a cigarette? Like you may be actively making the choice to smoke that cigarette, but I didn't choose to be in the same space or the same room as you when you're smoking the cigarette, and therefore you're making me inhale the same fumes," right? He hates smoking, but after he like kills this guy, he then has to reluctantly pull out a pack of cigarettes, light one up, and start smoking. Or there are other people, like there's one operative that's like an opera singer. She has like the ability to like sing really loudly that'll like burst your eardrums and whatever, and she literally eats cigarettes. It can be anything, but she chooses to eat cigarettes because she's like, this is my price and I hate it, but like it like grounds me essentially.
So why do you want to live in this world?
True.
Because I think it would be so interesting. First off, I would love to be this is kind of like where my mind goes in the fact that I think this is a really interesting world where we see a lot of worlds with like superheroes, supervillains, people with power, and there's not a lot of times where they have a drawback to that.
A consequence of what
yeah,
they're doing.
a consequence of using that action, right? So like you have Spider-Man who's like, with great power comes great responsibility, and that often means like if I have great power, I'm going to use that to help people as much as I can. But not often is there like I'm a Superman figure and I'm super powerful, but there are drawbacks to using that. And I think it's really interesting to kind of court that idea and play with the idea of being like, what is the drawback to using powers? And so I would love to be in that world, to be like, what would my power be? And
What would the consequence
what would
be?
the consequence be?
Because like in our world, Earth now,
Yeah, Earth
there's,
now.
there's very little consequence to a lot of powerful people.
It's
right,
true.
Exactly. And I think it would be...
Sorry, getting way political.
yeah, sure. But I think it not necessarily a world that I would like love to be in. Like I think Nick's world would be so fun. I didn't even think about that. I just think that thinking about and being in that world would be so interesting. Obviously, I could be just a normal person in that world, or the show even talks about these characters, these like subset race. I don't even know what to consider them. Called dolls, which are creatures that are humanoid that typically don't have emotions or feelings, and they just kind of follow orders. But that idea is later challenged by the show as you get deeper in, where you're like, wait a second, some of these actually have free will. Like the idea is that they don't have free will, but the idea is that some of them do have free will and can make choices for themselves. And so it comes into this question of like, what are these creatures and what is their place in society and where do they fit? And I think it's very interesting to kind of like think about these things in a fictitious sense,
Right.
and then kind of take some of these lessons that we're learning from media or these questions that are being proposed by media and kind of bring them back into the real world.
Well, that's like when you read something like 1984 or Brave New World,
Right.
Where they're saying like Brave New World, where there was the alphas and the epsilons and the deltas, and
Right.
you look at that and you go, are we doing that, but not as
apparent.
apparently
Yeah.
as in a lot of things.
That's kind of why I like media, because you can be very blunt with what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
and it might not be as obvious in the real world.
Correct.
Like it might not be like, oh, the dolls, right? Like the idea, the concept is very blunt and very in your face. Like you're like, yeah, these things don't have like free will. They just follow orders or whatever. And then you're like, wait a second, maybe they do.
Yeah, but you can see where media is going. There's so many new series and movies talking about dolls having AI and having the ability to become sentient now.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, like, this show is not as futuristic that it has AI that is like living on its own. But I do think when you go into more of these like futuristic worlds, there is those questions that are AI sentience. I'm playing through the Mass Effect series right now, and there are VI, which is virtual intelligence, which is like what we have now, which is basically like I'll answer questions that you ask me that I've been programmed to answer.
Or that I can find on the internet.
That I can find, yeah. Or AI, which is like a sentient life that has been created that will act and move on its own, that will, you know, follow what it believes is best.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to like look into that and be like, what does that mean? Granted, Mass Effect also really plays into the fact of like aliens being treated differently and how that plays into effect.
So my world is not like that.
Yeah.
Before we get to Dad's answer, I would not go to the Darker Than Black world ever. I think I enjoy it as an observer.
Yeah.
And getting too close is an issue.
It's violent. It's brutal. I think.
Wait, anime's
Well, like this one specifically. Not all anime is violent and brutal, but like I think Garant was the one to describe it as Hey, the main character is like a Chinese electric Batman.
Yeah.
Where he's like this guy.
He just stabs people with a knife and then
electrocutes
and
them.
then conducts electricity through it.
Wow. Yeah. And like all of his knives are connected with like a metal like wire to him. So he like throws it out and then he electrocutes the wire, which electrocutes them. And like some of the fights,
It's really brutal.
yeah, it's rough.
I don't know what he chose.
But I think it's a really interesting world, and I would love to be in it to be like,
No.
what would my power be? What would my
If you're one of the lucky ones hunted down by the government.
Yeah. Yeah, true. What would my contract be?
Food.
Would I have to kick a puppy?
Kick a puppy?
Yeah, like
Monster.
yeah, exactly. Like, what would my contract be? What would my price be?
All right, I just finished this up. I gotta find the nearest dog.
Yeah, all right. I just manipulated gravity. Now, where's the closest puppy?
Yeah, I'm not anywhere near there. All right, so they kind of got an insight into where I was doing, but contrary to my first two choices, which were structured, engineering, and whatever,
Yeah.
when I went to a fantasy or fictional world, I immediately went to chaos. And the thing I thought of right away was Cloud Cuckoo in the Lego movie with the unicorn cat.
Yeah,
Unikitty?
Unikitty.
Princess Unikitty.
Unikitty. As soon as I saw that in the Lego movie, I was like, I wish I was there. I thought it was just so insane that it matches how I think. It just was all over I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to be. Life in general is way too structured. Okay.
I think you're working on helping that be more structured too.
Your first two answers like fortify that.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yes. And so for me, the exact opposite. Because so what I do for a living is quality assurance and making sure things work correctly and everything is usable and whatever. And the opposite of that is the world I'd want to visit or be in. Yeah, that it's just you don't know whether you're taking left or right or going straight. It doesn't matter because it's all going to be chaotic. And I just love that. There's different textures, there's different skies, there's different lands, there's different seas, there's different people, there's different colors. I love it. I love the chaos of it.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
In fact, I'm disappointed that they meet in a building at in the one part of it. So
That's true. They do show up in like a very like structured like
Greek Colosseum or Roman Colosseum.
Greco like meeting area.
Yeah, I thought it was more of like a Senate area.
Yeah, it's
right?
like it reminds me of like the Roman Senate,
Right.
or the Greek Senate. But yeah, I that part was disappointing to me. I wanted it to be clouds with different kinds of seats and chairs and whatever.
Like each part of the pie is a different like thing.
You know, I can go into the Senate, and rather than having 100 seats that are the same, each seat is different. You know, one's a marshmallow seat, one's
I agree.
One's a beanbag chair, one's a king's chair. You know, who's got the biggest ego.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just.
Yeah, sometimes I think your mind is a wonder for me, because sometimes I'm like, oh man, engineering brain, I get it, like the structure, I get it, and then other times you're like, I just need chaos.
I just need chaos.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we're seeing like all three monitors doing something else. He's got one phone testing. He's got his other one doing something else.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, I get it. I see it.
He's got YouTube Shorts on one monitor. He's got Candy Crush on the other one.
Yeah, and he's clearing all of the levels while scrolling through the shorts.
And also testing on an Apple and
Yeah,
Android.
exactly.
What you would do if you had more than two arms.
Oh my God, it would be awesome.
Probably be practicing drumming at the same time.
Exactly.
Undiagnosed ADHD, I think.
Very undiagnosed.
We can diagnose it pretty quickly.
But anyway, so that's where I'd want to be. There's a certain freedom and joy that I get from chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that there's not a lot of deep thought into it, you know.
I mean, yeah, instinct.
Yeah.
It's just, I think a lot of times as you get older, you fail to understand that you need to live in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And because I think that and that place is a live in the moment place.
Yes.
Because every second is different.
Yeah, you're just living in the craziness of it all.
Of whatever's, and you're like enjoying and spectating it too.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
The
that
ultimate people watch, because you're just like seeing a bunch of random
It's true.
stuff.
It never is dull, and I think that's the
Yeah.
enjoyment of it.
a floating bunk bed. It's just a cool idea.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like part of the reason why we love like fiction and media and like the fantasy of it all. And I think I've been lately really struggling to enjoy the mundane, enjoy the normal of life, especially when you have something as crazy as that. You're like, man, that would be so crazy to live in. But it is kind of that goal, I think, as humans, to just enjoy life as is. And so that's something I've been grappling with lately, is really enjoying just the sameness, but also the difference that life brings to us.
Well, I'm going to be honest. Doing a weekly podcast episode where we just talk about random stuff and drink new alcohol, I think that's enjoying the moment sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely came into this podcast with some reservation of like, oh, this is just Dad's new idea of like what's the latest
His new infatuation.
Yeah.
Well, for 2 years I've been trying.
But I think this has been a lot of fun. I think it's been a great way to just like talk with you guys, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if anyone's going to enjoy this. We know that we're enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
To be honest, it's my excuse just to hang out and drink.
Yeah, we appreciate you watching if you've tuned in, but also we would do this even if no one tunes in.
It's honestly the expectation. We are 7 episodes in, and my expectation going in, I'm like, yeah, we still don't have any viewers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we had talked about the concept of this would be, what would we talk about if we were in the car or at the dinner
Yeah,
table?
exactly.
So it really is just us together hanging out.
Get out of my head.
All right, so I think we're near the end here.
Yeah.
I think we're here. Thank you all so much
Wait.
for watching. Before we go out
there you
here, I'm not gonna forget. I'll go down the line here. What was everyone's favorite drink? So, Dad, I'll have you start here.
Was it on the rocks, the Valstead, or the Lafayette?
I am a Scotch drinker, so I like straight up
Yeah.
whiskey. So I think the rye on the rocks. This was a very close second.
Yeah.
I think the other one needed more fruit flavor. But
I'll
yeah,
work on it.
I think the one on the rocks was my favorite. I am not a big rye drinker, but I do like it occasionally as a sidestep from the Scotch I like drinking.
For me, it's got to be the Lafayette. I think this drink was very fun. I think the other flavors enhanced it. I really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna agree with you.
Yeah.
I drank that. It does just feel like a slightly more complex version of On the Rocks.
Yep.
Like, I don't think anything overpowered. That might just be the additional 2 shots of it compared to everything else.
I'm feeling good.
The rye was very apparent, but like I loved all the additional notes, and every time you took a sip, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, there's like so much depth," and it's not heavy still.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it that you guys are being able to taste these different alcohols and not. Because a lot of times the way you taste these alcohols is you're at a party and I'm drinking vodka now.
That's why I'm doing gin and tonics and other mixers.
Yeah.
What did you give me? Okay.
But we're being able to taste these things and understand what they are.
Yeah.
And do them in very complex drinks.
Yeah.
So, but rye is a very different drink. It's not everyone's favorite, but I think it's a very nice drink.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Peace out, fam.
Back for another.
Thank you. We need a good outro. I like the where are we fumbled?